Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to solve a super common, honestly pretty frustrating medical mystery: why your feet and ankles swell up every single evening. If you've ever looked down at the end of a long day and noticed your lower legs look puffy, tight, or just visibly swollen, trust me, you are far from alone. We're going to unpack the exact science behind what's actually going on in your body, and far more importantly, how to fix it. We're looking way beyond the surface symptoms here and digging right down to the root cause.
Okay, let's dive into this by painting a picture that I bet is going to sound really familiar to you. You get home, after a long, exhausting day, you finally sit down on the edge of your bed and you take off your socks. But instead of seeing smooth skin, you see this deep, lasting indentation exactly where your sock line was. It literally looks like a mold has been pressed into your leg, right? And the tissue just refuses to bounce back. Well, this isn't just normal end-of-day fatigue. This is a highly specific biological signal telling you that your body is holding onto something it absolutely shouldn't be.
Now, that stubborn indentation actually has a formal medical name. It's called pitting edema. Basically, pitting edema is a very specific type of swelling in the lower extremities where, if you press your thumb or finger into the lower part of your leg, the skin doesn't just spring right back. Instead, it leaves a visible, lasting dent or a pit. It's a crystal clear, visual indicator that fluid is pooling in the tissues of your legs rather than circulating smoothly through your system like it's supposed to.
To really understand why this fluid pools in the first place, we have to quickly look at the mechanics of your circulation. Think of it like a plumbing system. You've got arteries that start at your heart, and they powerfully push your blood all the way down to your feet, your fingers, and up to your head. From there, the blood crosses over through these tiny little capillaries into the venous system. Now, the venous system has a really tough job. It has to fight gravity to return that blood all the way back up to the heart. So when there's a problem or any sluggishness in that venous system, you get this massive pooling effect of fluid right at the lowest point of your body, which is, you guessed it, your feet and ankles.
But here is where we absolutely need to bust some major myths. A lot of people, and yeah, even some medical professionals, will blame this fluid retention purely on your physical position. They'll tell you you're standing too much at work or sitting too much at your desk, or maybe you just aren't doing enough calf exercises. But logically, that doesn't really hold up. Think about it for a second. There are plenty of hardcore gamers or office workers sitting at a desk for 12 hours a day who never ever develop pitting edema. So while walking around and activating your calf muscles can act like a handy little second heart to pump blood, a lack of movement is definitely not the root cause.
Usually, when someone goes to their doctor with this swelling, they're told they have venous insufficiency. The standard, conventional fix is to just put them on a diuretic, a water pill, to artificially force that fluid out of the body, and then prescribe a super strict low-salt diet. But the reality is quite different. These treatments, they are just a band-aid. They only mask the symptom. Because the second you stop taking that water pill, the swelling's going to come rushing right back, simply because the underlying root cause hasn't been identified or fixed at all.
So if it isn't just a simple plumbing issue, what is it? Now, what's really interesting about this is the real culprit, the metabolic sponge.
The truth is, your lower legs are swelling because your internal environment has essentially turned into a giant, literal sponge. Here's exactly how that chain reaction gets triggered step by step. Step 1, you consume sugars and refined carbs. Step 2, in response to eating those carbs, your body experiences a huge spike in the hormone insulin. Now, when too much of that insulin builds up in your blood supply, it triggers step 3. Your body begins to stubbornly retain sodium. And finally, step 4, which is the kicker. Wherever sodium goes, water follows. Because your body is hoarding all this sodium, it also starts hoarding massive amounts of fluid.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the problem. 3. That is the exact number of water units your body actively hoards for every single unit of carbohydrate you consume. 1 unit of carbs equals 3 units of water permanently locked into your tissues. So, if you're eating a high-carbohydrate diet, you are actively constructing a massive metabolic sponge inside your own body. All that heavy, trapped water is then pulled down by gravity, making its grand appearance as that deep, stubborn sock indentation on your ankles every single night.
So, we've uncovered the cause of the swelling, but there is a totally missing element to this medical mystery. Let's look at the potassium plot twist.
When it comes to managing fluid balance in the human body, sodium and potassium are total opposites. They act like a seesaw. But check out this massive gap. Your body actually requires a huge amount of potassium to function correctly. We're talking about 4,700 milligrams every single day. The average person eating a modern diet doesn't even come close to getting half of that. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I'll just take a supplement.
But if you run down to the health food store and buy a bottle of potassium, it usually comes in these tiny little 99 milligram pills. To actually hit your 4,700 milligram requirement, you would have to swallow nearly half the bottle every single day. This right here proves exactly why targeted, food-based nutrition is absolutely vital.
And, here is the truly cruel irony of the conventional treatment we talked about earlier. Remember those diuretic pills doctors prescribe to help you pee out the excess fluid? Well, those very same diuretics actively deplete your body's potassium levels. Yeah, some doctors realize this and prescribe a potassium pill alongside the diuretic. But as we just saw, those little pills barely make a dent in what your body actually needs. So the very medication meant to cure your swelling is literally stripping away the exact mineral you desperately need to fix the root cause. No way, right?
So, the crucial point is this. At a cellular level, your body gets rid of fluid using something called the sodium-potassium pump. This pump is essentially a microscopic mechanism built into all your cells that forcefully pushes excess fluid out of the cell and eventually out of your body. But, and this is the whole shebang, this pump absolutely cannot and will not work without sufficient potassium. Without enough potassium, the pump breaks down, the fluid stays completely trapped, and your metabolic sponge remains fully soaked.
Now that we completely understand the root causes, let's move to and see how this builds your 3-step action plan.
Okay, here is the exact protocol to fix this for good. Step 1, you've got to lower your insulin levels by getting rid of the excessive carbs and sugars. This usually means transitioning to something like a ketogenic diet. Step 2, decrease the frequency of your meals through intermittent fasting. This is huge because it further drops your insulin and stops that sodium retention dead in its tracks. And step 3, drastically increase your potassium intake through real whole foods. By combining these 3 steps together, you instantly lower your insulin and give your cells the exact fuel they need to finally start pumping out that trapped fluid.
Honestly, the results of implementing these steps are nothing short of shocking. When you finally break that carb-insulin cycle and replenish your potassium, your body completely unlocks the metabolic sponge. Because of this, it is incredibly common, like almost expected, for a person to lose anywhere from 7 to 11 pounds of pure fluid within the very first 1 to 2 weeks. Think about that. That isn't fat loss. That is literal pounds and pounds of stagnant, heavy water finally draining out of your lower legs and out of your body because you actually fixed the root metabolic issue.
So just to summarize why we care so much about this. While eating low carb and fasting are absolutely vital to getting your insulin down, massive amounts of potassium are the ultimate key to making this work permanently. Potassium does 3 vital things for you. 1, it perfectly balances out all that retained sodium. 2, it indirectly helps lower your insulin by making your body way more sensitive to it. And 3, most importantly, it powers that little sodium-potassium pump in your cells to aggressively push out all that excess fluid you've been miserably carrying around.
So I really want to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up our explainer today. Every single time you experience that tight, uncomfortable pitting edema at the end of the day, you aren't just tired, you're looking directly at the real-time consequences of the metabolic sponge. But now that you know the truth, that 1 unit of carbohydrate traps 3 whole units of water, and that massive amounts of potassium are your ultimate cellular cure, you have a choice to make. Is your daily intake of sugars and refined carbs really worth carrying around pounds of trapped fluid and dealing with swollen ankles every night? The power to change it is literally sitting right there on your plate.